My name is Stefan Groff, and this is my recovery journey. My biological father wasn't in the picture after 9 months old because of addiction. He was a heroin addict. He was abusive towards my mother. My mom met my stepfather at 3. We moved in with him probably around when I was like 4 or so. And childhood was pretty normal, I feel like. He worked, she stayed at home, took care of the house, took care of me. Was around 8 years old is the first time I remember the negative thoughts kind of coming in. And what it was is I was at the court hearing when my stepdad adopted me. And I remember my biological father was there. For some reason, I kept having this thought, like, why wouldn't my biological father want to be around? Was there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? That's kind of where the thoughts really started to get a little dark. And at 8 years old, you kind of, it's hard to understand something like that. Started smoking weed at 12. Big trigger of that was an uncle of mine passed away. From there, it progressed to cocaine at 14 and methamphetamine by 17. My best friend's stepfather introduced it to us. At that time, I thought it was normal just to use. All the friends I was using with were, we were all getting high together. And just something about using made dealing with life a little easier. And I just knew it made me feel good. I was working at the time, so I had money, so I was able to get drugs whenever I needed. I spent a lot of weekends at my grandmother's house, and I remember the first time I wanted to get help, I was at my grandmother's house. We were sitting at the table, and we always played cards and checkers, and I think we were playing a game of cards, played 500 rummy. And for some reason, I really don't know what triggered me to tell her, but I just said, Nan, I need help. And I remember she dropped the cards and she looked at me and she was like, what do you mean? I said, I need help. I was like, I think I'm a drug addict. And just the look of relief on her face from me just saying that, I think she almost fainted. She was like, we'll get you help, whatever it takes. I called my parents and I told them, and I think I knew for a while that I needed help. I was always just scared. I didn't want to let my family down. I was nervous on what was going to happen. Am I going to get in trouble? What are they going to think of me? And it turned out to be the complete opposite. They were so supportive. It just meant the world to me that they were there, because that's not always the case. Sometimes it happens to where addiction splits families up and you're left with nobody. So I'm very grateful that that wasn't the case. From there, I relapsed a few times. And to me, my definition of recovery at that time was hard drugs, no, but smoking weed and drinking, that's okay. Normal people do that. And life was okay. I wasn't using hard drugs, still smoking weed. Met my significant other at work. We ended up buying a house together eventually. And I managed to live that way for about 7 years. And 6 months later, got involved with some old friends, old habits. Buddy pulls a bag of meth out. I didn't even think twice. Went right back in. Not even a thought after 7 years of being off hard drugs. And from there, it was way worse than the first time. It escalated very quick to using every day. Things at home were getting worse. I was raising a family. I had a daughter and a stepson, and kind of triggered me to get help again is one night I was coming off of a few-day bender, and things got physical with my significant other and I. My whole life I swore I would never be like my biological father. I would never be a drug addict. I would never put my hands on a woman. And there I was, putting my hands on, the woman I'm supposed to be in love with. And as we were arguing and getting into it, my daughter came down the steps. She saw it happen. That kind of triggered me to stop. The next night, is when I called to get back into rehab. After, the couple stints in inpatient, it was during a relapse, and I can't remember if I was at work. I came home and my kids were there and my significant other was there. And I came in and my daughter was standing there, and I went to give her a hug and she kind of backed away and like hid behind her mom. And that just kind of hit me. I was like, is my own daughter really afraid of me because of who I am? And I could never get that out of my head. I just kept thinking, and I was like, why? Like, I don't understand. And so that was when I got back into a program again and got out and, put some clean time together. And it was a struggle. And I kept asking myself, why is this so hard? Everybody says it's supposed to be easier. I got 6 months clean. I went through the program, and something still wasn't right. The program I went in, they were a dual diagnosis program, but they really just focused on the substance use side. And I just kept thinking, like, something's not right. So that's when I called RCA for the first time, asked about the mental health program, gave them my background, and I said, I think there's something missing. Something just to make recovery a little easier. And got into the program and really started working on myself. A lot of the traumas that I've had as a kid, the grief and loss I went through, the undiagnosed mental illness. Finally, things started to make sense. It's like, okay, I'm not crazy. There was a reason why I kept feeling this way. Did a lot of trauma therapy to handle some stuff that happened to me as a child. Got on great medication, connected with my group. It really just made recovery a little bit easier. I mean, it was night and day. Being in a program focused on mental health, it was very beneficial in the fact that I'm talking about me and things that happened to me. It wasn't just the substance, not just focused on the substance. It was me as an individual, as a person, as a human. And once I had gotten to the mental health program, I learned all the coping skills on how to deal with my anxiety, my depression. It can be very scary. It can be very intimidating to take a deep look into yourself, especially if there's trauma involved, grief and loss. It's so worth it because it gets better. It gets easier to deal with. You learn how to deal with it. For the longest time, I looked at my past as something I could change. And I don't believe a time machine has been invented yet, so I can't go back and change those things. So I learned that that's part of my story. What happened to me, all the pain, all the hurt, it's gonna be there. But I learned that it's in the past for a reason, and it needs to stay back there. My future is very bright now that I've been through RCA's program. I have a positive outlook on life. I have confidence again. And I'm ready to tackle whatever life throws at me. I'd like to be remembered as somebody who at one point did struggle, somebody that is a survivor. I'm no longer a victim. What I would say to somebody who is thinking about getting help but is unsure is just pick up the phone, make a phone call, get the help that you need. If you're thinking about it, then you probably need some help, and it's okay. I was nervous, I was scared the first time I got help. Once I got the help I needed, it changed my life.